What's the best way to structure a one-on-one with my reports to maximize time?
Have an agenda and try your best to have nothing be like a last minute topic. So when I say have an agenda, it doesn't have to be this like long, exacting agenda, but basically be like, here are the 3 things we're going to talk about, or here are the 5 things we're going to talk about, or here are 2 things, and here are the sub bullets. Having an agenda in advance, the things you want to talk about, they want to talk about, allows both of you to come to the table prepared for the conversation. If you do that in advance, that means you should have the expectation that people are showing up and ready to discuss it. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't some things that are going to come up last minute, but that's fine too. If something comes up last minute, let's say something comes up an hour beforehand, email an updated agenda and literally put it in the subject line, agenda update, today's meeting, and then have what the updated items are. It just gives people the idea that they should be coming to the meeting, being prepared in advance. Now, there might be some things like you have to bring up in the moment. They're just like brand new information. That's fine too. You can do that, but I do have a trick about that. But before I get to any of that, spitballing things in the moment or like, oh, I've got one extra thing to talk about. It's not that you should never do that, but if that's what your meetings are usually, then typically all you're talking about is just like update meetings. Why would you have an update meeting? Like, what's the point of update meetings? You should be spending your time with your reports, like actually working on things rather than updates. Updates can just be done through email. And a lot of people end up just having these like update meetings with their reports or with their teams that just get repetitive and boring. If people prepare in advance so they know what they're going to be talking about in advance, and that's the expectation, then you should be having better interactions with your reports and them with you. So for things that just come up last minute, I think it's really important to take the time to think about it. So let's say something comes up like 5 minutes before a meeting. What I'd encourage is right when you start the meeting, you say, okay, here's this thing that we need to talk about in the meeting. What I think is, why don't we both just spend about 5 or 10 minutes prepping our thoughts and then have the meeting? So just delay the meeting by about 5 to 10 minutes, prep your thoughts, and then go in and have the conversation. You'll have a more effective conversation than if you just start spitballing it. Now, this might seem a little like, well, shouldn't I just be able to like chat with people? Totally. You totally can chat with people. But if we're talking from an effectiveness point of view, there's something that Michelle Rakshas, who's our VP of Learning, told me about Amazon, is that, like when you get documents emailed to you in advance, it's like, come to the meeting and be prepared to speak to this. That a lot of people actually don't read the documents, myself included. At Amazon, what they do is they start the meeting and they have like a 10 or 15-minute buffer where everybody literally in the meeting is reading the document because they assume nobody's going to read the document in advance. So what you can build into your meetings is if you have things that people should be reading in advance or you should be reading in advance, or you have some space for some prep that you can anticipate other people don't have time to do in the rest of their meetings, build an extra 15, 20 minutes where you're literally sitting in the same room doing your prep or reading the documents and then have your meeting. We all are like, too many meetings, too many conversations, too much this, too much that, and also repetitive conversations on the same thing where it doesn't seem like we're making any ground. Then build your meetings in accordance. First, have an agenda that you can update right up to the beginning of the meeting. But I also encourage you to put in some time if there's documents that need to be read, or if you wanted people to have a little bit of extra prep time where you can literally just sit in the same meeting for 5, 10, or even 20 minutes where people read documents or prep their thinking beforehand. Yes, it's a little bit of extra time, but think how much extra meeting time you can save in the future if you do that.